If you love your boxing, this is the show for you. Fight Night Extra with myself, Ade Oladipo, and the great Gareth Davies. Today, we're going to be hearing from new British heavyweight champion Jeamie TKV. He won an absolute slugfest with Fraser Clarke on Saturday to pick up the vacant British title. He's told us he's open to another big British title fight before looking at European honours. We'll also discuss Ben Whittaker's Matchroom debut, an easy first round KO, bad matchmaking, or brilliance from the surgeon. Huge fight announced earlier this week. 2 pound for pound stars Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez will meet in New York. We're going to get stuck into that and how much of a boost it is for boxing in America. Plus, we'll look ahead to this weekend's action and discuss some interesting words from Alexander Usyk on who he wants to fight next. Loads, as always, to get into. This is Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Mr. Gareth Davies, back from sunny Miami to a cold, chilly, but I think very beautiful England.
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, you're right, it is. And it's a beautiful morning as we record this as well. Miami was 28 degrees. We'll be at Miami Heat in a couple of weeks' time for AJ versus Jake Paul. I can't believe I'm saying it out loud again. It's great to be home. It was great to be away. It's a great end to the year. I had a weekend off, first time for months and months and months. Still watched the boxing. And monitored the two stations that you rightly mentioned there. Obviously, the return on the BBC of boxing, that was great fun. And I thought they did a decent job. A few wrinkles to iron out there, but it's great to see it back on the BBC. Obviously, I covered the time when Audley Harrison fought plastics factory workers and doormen and private eyes. And yeah, but they made the mistake of letting him have 10 fights for $1 million and him choosing his opponents. Yeah. I think this will be slightly different. Well done to Ben Shalom and Boxer. There's obviously a bit of to and froing with Eddie Hearn at the moment. I'm enjoying the repartee, but I'm very well, and it's a really busy 3 weeks right now. How about you?
Yeah, I was in Birmingham for Ben Whittaker's Matchroom debut against Benjamin Gavazzi. Decent undercard as well. Like, you never know how these fights are going to play out on the undercard, and there was a couple of good fights. A Midlands middleweight title fight, which was quite entertaining. A young kid, I say young, a relatively young kid called Tom Cowlin, winning a Midlands title and what it meant to him. And I was thinking, obviously, this is below an English title, but you could still see what it meant to him and his family. And I saw him in the bar after and still celebrating, had his belt sort of draped around him. And it was nice to see, because that level, right? It's nice to see that what it means, because sometimes boxing can get your mind poisoned, like everything's about world title fights and millions of pounds and dollars swirling around. And here it is, a young guy winning his first title and him beaming from ear to ear like it was a world title. So that was quite nice and refreshing to see. And as you say, I've been loving the back and forths between Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn. It kind of reminded me of Eddie Hearn versus Frank Warren, which I actually missed a little bit. And this is like the new version of it. And I like how Ben Shalom's not backing down from the challenge. So that's been fun to see. You know, on the BBC and their setup, obviously, as you said, first time in boxing for over a decade.
2 decades.
What did you make of... Oh, wow, over 2 decades. You're right, orderly, of course. What did you make of the actual setup? So everything. I mean, you've got your keen eye on these things. Like, so I'm talking presenter, announcer. What did you make of it all?
Well, obviously Buntsy's on there, Steve Bunce, who's very renowned in the boxing world, and he's kind of guiding the ship, really, I would say. And obviously he's got his radio shows on there, and it is everywhere in boxing. So he's very strong. Ellie Scottney will develop as a presenter. Obviously women's world champion, and I thought she's got the potential to have a lot of charisma on air. They chose Rick Edwards, who has presented sport as the main presenter, but hasn't really been around the boxing game and looked like a bit of a neophyte there. I think at times there were bits and pieces where they were learning, but when you think we do it fair, week in, week out, and with talkSPORT or with DAZN or whoever we're working with at the time, I thought the show was fine. I sat and watched it with my family, believe it or not, and they really enjoyed it being on it. And there was that feeling of primetime Saturday night on on the iPlayer, or I'm pleased about that because it could go somewhere. Fran Hennessy danced her way in doing the TikTok dance and could easily be on Strictly. Adam Azim is back on there on January the 31st, which coincides with another big event that we'll talk about in a bit. So again, he takes salsa classes at the moment, so he could end up on there. It's got that feel that it could go big. Obviously, they're not investing like the Sky would have invested. I understand they were investing maybe 25 million a year in it. I understand. So there's more sponsorship on there, which is unusual on the BBC. There's no adverts, of course, which they can't have. But I was pleased to see it on there. Just needs a little bit of ironing out. But it was...
Agreed.
It was more than anything, I think what stood out on the night was what happened really to Fraser Clark for me.
Let's get into it. Let's go straight there. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because the story, and I'm happy you said that because I felt that way as well. The story should be Jeamie TKV and him becoming British champion, but I think the story out of that event is more Fraser Clark, who obviously was a big favourite going into the fight. And I was thinking about how tough the last 18 months have been for Fraser and the punishment. And we always talk about, don't we, punishment. And you think of the war he had with Fabio Wardley 18 months ago, that draw. And then it was the knockout defeat. Then he had, a gimme against Ebenezer Tete. And now this war with Jeamie TKV. So that's 3 punishing fights out of 4. And there isn't a win there in that 3 out of 4. Punishing defeats, if you take a win, it kind of help. It can help the bruises and the mental fatigue. When there isn't a win, I just wonder about the route back for Fraser because he was on his backside after that 11th round where he could have been pulled out. And maybe he should have been pulled out. But it was quite hard to watch Fraser take those shots again because I have the memory of that knockout defeat to Fabio still in my mind.
And I think you rightly put your finger on it, Ade, that you were watching that 11th round. He was out on his feet. I mean, he staggered back to his corner I had the family in stitches, and it's an expression we use. He staggered back to the corner like a drunk walking home at 3 a.m, didn't he? At the end of that 11th round, he had no legs under him. And in the 12th round, you have to praise how much he came back to stay in the fight in the 12th round. But it was worrying, and because you do have that muscle memory of that disfigurement against Fabio Wardley in the second fight in Riyadh. It's a really difficult climb back. There are fights for him there. There's Moses Itauma. There's other guys he can go in against. I say Moses Itauma because they'll line people up who've got some kind of reputation as they build Moses. I don't think he should go in against Moses, but that's a possibility. I mean, where does he go from here? It's a really, really hard build, and I'm glad everyone had concern for him at the end of it. I think he should have been pulled out in the 11th round. I completely agree with you because, I mean, only his heart and his will kept him going, frankly, because he was gone.
Yeah, he was gone. But let's focus on the winner, Jeamie TKV, the new British heavyweight champion, and what a win for him as well. This is what he had to say post-fight about what he potentially wants to do next.
I mean, look, I wouldn't mind an extra fight at British level, then possibly move on to European level and explore what options there may be. But obviously there's names like Dave Allen, which I'm very interested in, a fight that I'm very interested in. But just like I said, European level, and then we start pushing on slowly getting closer to the world level.
Jeamie TKV, the new British heavyweight champion, and what he wants to do next. Look, he mentions Dave Allen. That will be a big fight. He potentially talks about going for a European title as well. When he can dream these dreams now, I mean, that British title does that. Once you put that on a table, a negotiating table, all of a sudden your value really skyrockets. And I think he spoke really well in the lead up to that as well. He was on talkSPORT a couple of times. I thought he handled himself with good grace pre and post fight. And I guess Dave Allen is a fight that makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, Dave Allen will bring the crowd. Jeamie TKV brings the belt. It's kind of an easy fight to sell, I think.
Yeah, they could go back to Sheffield with that, I think. And again, it pits Eddie Hearn against Ben Shalom, doesn't it? Which I do quite like. Could be a good build-up in the week. The thing is, Jeamie TKV grows on the division and he grows on you. I mean, I had him in the studio on Fight Night on a Saturday night a couple of months back, and he's got a very interesting backstory with, I think, is it Uganda?
I think he's
Congolese, sorry, with Kinshasa and Congo. Yeah, very interesting backstory of kind of well, it sounds like a movie. Escape from Zaire, or Congo. So I think he will grow on us as he's growing into the division. He's proven that he's European level or British level, European Commonwealth level. That's the route he should go. I really like the fight with Dave Allen. I think it's a bruising, long fight, that one. He's proven that because he weathered an early storm. We haven't mentioned this. He weathered an early storm against Fraser Clark and then came on strong, didn't he? And he showed a lot of mettle. And the thing is with Jeamie, rather like Dave Allen, it's not till you're up and standing next to him do you realise how big he is. Because again, they are two men that look like they should inhabit an international front row as rugby players or flankers on a rugby field. They're very big human beings without being the gigantic size that an AJ or a Tyson Fury, or a Fraser Clark is, for that matter.
Yeah, I think it's a really good win, and what it does do, it adds another name now to the ever-growing British heavyweight scene. I think Jeamie TKV was almost a guy on the outside. You heard about sparring stories, but didn't really do it in the ring. We saw a little bit of it against David Adelaide. Now he's kicked the door down, and good luck to him. There's good money fights out there for him now as well, and maybe the Adelaide rematch, which was supposed to happen before Adelaide took on Hergovich, maybe that's a route where he can now say, 1 second. Yeah, maybe I'll get Adelaide in the ring. So there are plenty of fights. And I do wish Fraser Clark the best as well. Hopefully take a bit of time out, look at the training setup maybe, and then come back in a big one again. All right, I was in Birmingham for Ben Whittaker's Matchroom debut, the surgeon. One of the, I guess, is he still a prospect at 28? I'll say a prospect because he's only had, I think, 10 or 11 fights. What do you make of the matchmaking? Obviously, they made sure they got him an opponent that he could look very, very, very good against. But ultimately, he's got to do that to it. So if you are going to give him a fight where he's so above the levels, he's got to destroy the opponent, and that he did.
I mean, we got brilliance from, as you excuse me, as you said in your poetic intro. It was brilliance from him, but he was very undermatched in this fight. There's no doubt Ben Gavazi had a padded record in some ways. I thought he'd get the job done in 5 or 6 rounds, but he was horribly overmatched when it came down to it. And we didn't even get time. The ring walk with Dizzy Rascal, with Dizzy Rascal was longer than the fight itself, wasn't it? And he is a star. There's no doubt about it. He got the job done. He looked dramatic. Eddie Hearn got the trumpets and the fanfares out straight away. And they did the right thing by selling him, but they oversold him on that performance. I'm not taking anything away from him because he got the job done, but there's going to be much, much harder nights ahead against your Lyndon Arthurs, which I think is a good fight for him soon. Again, a European champion. Louis Edmondson, British champion. That's the route they should take him, in my view. Take him the traditional route, take him around the towns, take him around the cities, build him in America a little bit, like Eddie's saying. They seem to love him over there. He's got that millions of followers on Instagram. I really like the kid. He's extremely talented. He's just not ready for that top 10 yet, in my view.
No, couldn't agree more. Again, the top 10, and that's no disrespect to Ben Whittaker. The top 10 is an incredibly gifted top 10 of former world champions and current world champions. I think the British route is key. I know he had a WBC silver belt sort of flanked over him, but I'm thinking, forget that for now and go the route you said. Louis Edmondson's there. Craig Richards fights Dan Aziz in Ghana, maybe the winner of that one. Ezra Taylor fights Willie Hutchinson January the 24th, I think it is, maybe the winner of that one. And then we can see where he is. What I did like about him, and I think you've critiqued him a little bit, the showboating. I think 2 years ago, he showboats his way to a 5-round knockout win over that guy. And he just almost takes the mick a little bit. I think that's almost been stopped a little bit from Andy Lee. And Andy Lee, like, if you know you're better than these guys, stop playing around and just get rid of them. Whereas before, it would have been the backhand. It would have been, looking at the crowd, talking to the guy's trainer. Now it's a case of, I know I'm better than you. I'm just going to
and what I do like about Ben, when you mention all those opponents, Ezra Taylor, Louis Edmondson, Lyndon Arthur, the Danazzi, the winner of Danazzi's and Craig Richards, all these fights, is that people are going to say, oh, we'll be tested by this guy. Oh, we'll be tested by this guy. Oh, has he got enough power? The nice thing is there's when you have a superstar on the rise, a potential superstar, well, we aren't, but generally the following are loving and hating, and he's winning over the haters by the haters saying, yeah, but he's padded, he's blown up, he's been given all the opportunities, he's the home fighter, the house fighter. He's going to get all those things, and there's going to be jeopardy in all those fights. And every time we'll see whether he has it or not. Sometimes it comes to a clattering halt, and the shutters come down, and they have to rebuild. But I've got the feeling there's something special about this guy. So I hope they don't do too many Gavazis on the way now. That maybe they'll do one more, but I want those names that we're talking about, because once we know that's announced, we want to see it. It's as simple as that. It's not, oh, he's gonna beat this guy in 5 rounds and we're gonna see him do his wares again. He's shown his wares now. He's made the statement. Let's get him in those big fights, because Matchroom and Eddie are talking the game and blaming Ben Shalom for not building him quickly enough. It's time for them to do it now, in my view.
All right, you're listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, a huge fight announced in America next year, early next year. Shakur Stevenson steps up to light welterweight to take on Teofimo Lopez. Welcome back. You're listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, let's talk about a big fight, huge fight announced in America, start of next year, New York, hopefully Madison Square Garden, could be the Barclays. We're not quite sure yet. But we are talking about Shakur Stevenson stepping up to the 140-pound division to take on the number one in that division, the great Teofimo Lopez. America, for a long time, and I think they've had good fights over the years, Gareth, but they've been calling out for a big one. This is a big one. This is 2 pound-for-pound stars. This is Shakur Stevenson, who I think should and probably will be in that top 5 in 12 to 18 months, fighting Teofimo Lopez, who, when the chips are down and the back's against the wall, we always see this guy put out good performances, i.e. Vasily Lomachenko, Arnold Barboza Jr., Josh Taylor. This is a terrific fight. I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, this is... Finally, we've got 2 of the very best in their prime, or very close to their prime, fighting each other. Jeopardy that Shakur is coming up to a 4th weight division to win a world title against a guy who really is the light welterweight or 140-pound king, in my view, right now. If you count Devin Haney as a 147 fighter, now a welterweight, a fully fledged welterweight fighter. This is the route to America, really. It's a great matchup by Turki Al-Sheikh, by the way. Ring 7 event, I think it is, or Ring 6. It's a great route to opening up this division with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney involved, because they're all in the same milieu. This is a brilliant fight in which I think you can just say, I go one way and I go another way with this, rather like we did in the Canelo-Crawford build-up, even though it was obviously one-sided on the night. I have said for 4 years that I think Shakur Stevenson will be the pound-for-pound number one king eventually. This is his opportunity to show it. If it's the very best Teo Lopez, I could see him winning. The guy that fought Josh Taylor, and that was a southpaw, remember, as well. But if it's the very best Shaka Stevenson, he could win as well. My feeling is I was so thrilled when this was announced, because Boots Ennis against Virgil Ortiz is a super fight for America. This is a real super fight. And you've got the cool cat of Shaka Stevenson against the lunatic fringe that Lopez brings, in that genius from Honduras. So both have been to the Olympics for Honduras and America as well. Shaka is beatable. He lost in the Olympic final. Obviously, that's in the amateurs. Tio lost to George Kambosos on a bad night for him. It's a brilliant fight, and it will deliver. It's boxing and it's brawling.
Yeah.
And the fact that Shaka's been through that William Zepeda fight in his last outing, where he fought off the ropes against a very dangerous fighter and completely nullified him and beat him up eventually. It's the perfect time for the fight.
Yeah, honestly, it's so good. We haven't had many big fights with the new school, if you like. Obviously, Canelo Crawford, certainly the old school. In my head, I'm thinking Devin Haney Ryan was one, and Javonte Ryan was probably the other. And that's really it in terms of the new school kids. This is most certainly one. And this will tell me, I think Shakur Stevenson, as you said, pound for pound great eventually. But this fight will tell me if he's going to be like Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford. Is he going to be that good? Because he's going to have to be that good to beat Teofimo Lopez. Because Tio on his day, when the mind's right, because physically Tio's perfect for boxing. Like as an athlete, at this point, it's like he could do anything. I mean, he can do somersaults. You see him with the skip and rope. He is literally just perfect. If his mind's right, I think he's an incredible fighter and someone just on the cusp of being a pound for pound top 10. And this will also tell me just how broken American boxing is. I don't think it's broken, but that's what we hear a lot of. If this fight doesn't sell out MSG or Barclays, then we have a bit of a problem, because it should, because it's such a big fight, and hopefully it brings out the casuals. And I think it will, because both of them speak well. They both like a bit of trash talk. And I guess with Shakur, you get the added element of, you get Terence Crawford, you get Andre Ward, and with Tio, you get his crazy dad. I think this is just going to be, it's gold.
I don't think
really
there'll be
is.
a seat in the house, Ade. I really don't think there'll be a seat vacant in the house. Like you say, the venue isn't announced yet. It's definitely New York. But they haven't got, like you say, rightly said as well, it could be the Barclays Centre. No, there won't be a seat in the house. There'll be a lot of travelling fans as well. This is a fans fight. But also when you close your eyes and you see the silhouettes moving, the interactions of the two men is extraordinary. It's going to be a very close fight, and it's going to be. I think it may end up as the Bull and the Matador if Tio's on form. Those sporadic and invasive assaults that he makes from that springing jack in the box movement that he's got, and power as well. He will be the guy with the power. Shakur's come up from featherweight, yeah. So he's not the biggest guy, but I say I have a relationship with him. I feel like I know Shakur. We always speak. And I've always said to him, I really do think you're going to be the best boxer in the world. When Terence Crawford speaks of him, when Ward speaks of him, when Oscar De La Hoya said it in the last few days, that he believes that this kid is the best boxer on earth. And I agree with him. I do think he's the best. And what I love every time I see Shakur, there's an aura around him of inner confidence, because he knows how good he can be. So it's about the deliverables now. I just hope there's no injury in the build-up. I hope we're not delayed at all, because as you rightly pointed out just now, this is the fight that, I know Javonte's to one side at the moment. This is the fight that opens up all those big fights in America, from your Keishawns to your Devons, your Ryans. It's fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, as you said that, my concern was, is he big enough? Just because you did remind me that this guy did start at 126 pounds. And I remember there's a time when he was calling out Josh Warrington. And you've got Tio, who really wants to get to 147. He's been calling out some of those guys. So you've got one guy who wants to be a welterweight. You've got one guy who's comfortable at 135 pounds. Like Shakur, that's his weight class. And I guess he's only taking this because he's chasing the big fights, because ultimately there isn't really a big fight now. Javante's gone missing at 135. So I just wonder, physically, can he keep a Teofimo off? Teofimo's, you've met Teo, really like big neck, strong shoulders, big legs. He is a big 140 pounder, whereas Shakur, yes, he's getting bigger because ultimately he's getting older, but he's not the biggest guy. He's not the biggest.
No, he's long. He's long.
So I wonder how much size.
I mean, it's coming. I haven't got Teo like you. I haven't got Teo in my top 10. I've got Shakur at 8. So there's the jump into the top 10 pound for pound there as a carrot, as a nugget, as a jewel for Teo if he can get the victory. I mean, you can clearly tell I'm picking Stevenson to win this fight, but it's coming at the right time because I was there live for the Josh Taylor fight. I was working the broadcast as well for Top Rank on the week. That Josh Taylor performance by Teo Lopez was extraordinary. That's June 2023, by the way. Since then, I'm not diminishing any of these opponents, but Jermaine Ortiz, Steve Claggett, and Arnold Barboza ain't Shakur Stevenson. Equally, Artem Harutyunyan, Yen, if I've said that right, got 2 goes at that. Josh Padley, yes, William Zepeda, but we need the big fights. This is the perfect time for making them happen because they're both 28. They've only got 1 loss between the two of them in 7 years, but both have been pro. So it's a perfect time for these two to meet. I love the matchmaking. Yes, he's a smaller guy, and it may be Bull versus Matador, but I do think, from this distance, I want Shakur Stevenson to prove to me that skills pays the bills. It's as simple as that,
Yeah. And I was just thinking in my head there very quickly as we wrap, I was thinking about where the winner goes. And if you're Teofimo, without a doubt, you go to 147 and you take Devin Haney on. That's without a doubt. That fight's been brewing for years. That's what you do. If you're Shakur Stevenson, it's a different route. In my head, I was thinking there's the winner potential of Subriel Matias, Dalton Smith, which looks like it could happen. Could we eventually down the line see an Adam Azim fight? I know this sounds crazy, but Adam Azim's got to go at one stage to world level. So it'd be very interesting to see where the winner goes with both. I like Teo's chances, and I like his route better because it opens up the Devin Haney fight. Equally, I think Shakur will fight Devin Haney as well. I just don't know at 147. But what it does do, it creates really big fights next sort of summer for the winner.
I don't
That's what it does.
The thing, it's a very good point because perhaps Shakur doesn't vacate the lightweight division either after this.
Ooh, okay.
He's got to keep an option in there, I think. It depends what he's like. He obviously makes the weight easily or relatively easily. It's a very good point about, is there a Conor Benn fight there for Shakur Stevenson, for example, in the stadium over here? Exactly. I mean, if they're thinking right, Shakur could be a massive star over here as well, So, and
the Conor Benn thing's so good because, yes, we know as a boxer, he lacks what those guys lack because ultimately they've been doing it since they were knee high. But just for being ferocious, I would put him in there with any of those guys because he's a nightmare because of his just intensity. Like, again, skill for skill, yes, he lacks what Devin and Teo and Shakur lack. But he makes up for that just because he is a bit like, he's screw loose. There's a bit of a screw loose with Conor.
I mean, I think he loses to all of those guys. I think he loses to
Ryan,
so do I. To Devin, to Shakur, to Teo, but they're all big fights. And if those Americans come here for them, they are very big fights because he is a fantastic person with an amazing aura and someone who people will go to watch. And I found him since that Chris Eubank victory, out in the street, out on the plains, out riding horses, out in the outback, wherever I am, in the cities, in the fields, in the hedgerows. I don't know where I'm going with this, but everybody finds him charming and compelling. So make the fights, please, Eddie.
What's the biggest one over here for Conor Benn? Out of all those 4 names you just mentioned, Devon, Teo, Ryan, and Shakur, which one does the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
Well, Ryan is a great seller, and those two will really talk it up. But I love the lightweight Shakur Stevenson. I say lightweight against the welterweight Conor Benn. If he can make welterweight again, he might have to do the weight cut this time. I think that one really sells because it really is the bull. It really would be the bull against the Matador. It's either Ryan Garcia. I don't think it's the Devin Haney fight. I think Ryan Garcia or Shakur Stevenson. Ryan Garcia, Shakur Stevenson, Teo Lopez, Devin Haney in that order for Conor Benn in terms of popularity.
Right. There you go. Again, could be a good 2026 for our fight fans. Looks like loads of fights, right? All right, you're listening to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, we're going to take a look ahead to the weekend's action and discuss a few other wild stories doing the rounds today. Welcome back to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, Gareth, Davies. All right, let's round up a few interesting stories, a few crazy stories, as well as talk about the fight card that's happening this weekend in Monaco. I do want to talk about the great Alexander Usyk, and we are talking about great Alexander Usyk, who was at the WBC convention in Thailand. I feel like everyone is there apart from me and you. And he was asked about who he would like to fight next. I think it was an interview with Boxing King Media. And I was waiting for him to say, maybe Fabio Wardley, or like Agit Kabiel would have, maybe even Tyson Fury, the trilogy. And he said Deontay Wilder. And I have to admit, it threw me a little bit because, look, Deontay Wilder of 5 years ago, okay, of course, but Deontay Wilder now, I certainly don't have as a top 10 heavyweight. Like I've done my top 10 heavyweight list and he's not there. Still a big name, commands respect for what he did, long reigning WBC heavyweight champion. But I did find it interesting that Usyk would call out Wilder. I'd expect Wilder to call out Usyk. I do find it interesting that Usyk would actually ask for a fight with Deontay Wilder. Can you make sense of
Alexander Usyk is your headline. Alexander Usyk wants a gimme, which people won't. It's a gimme. It's a gimme for him. But also, it's a no-brainer for Deontay Wilder to take this fight right now. And what he's doing, he's ticking the final legacy box. So that way back when, 2015 onwards, Deontay Wilder was a great WBC champion. All those defenses for 3 or 4 years. Never fought Vladimir Klitschko, of course. They kept those two apart. When people look back, they'll go, oh, he beat Deontay Wilder. He beat Tyson Fury twice. He beat Anthony Joshua twice. He beat Daniel Dubois twice. Right now, Fabio Wardley doesn't appeal to him. Moses Itauma doesn't appeal to him. So he's ticking a box and he wants a gimme.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I do that now. When I look at fighters and I'm doing a bit of research and I look at fighters' records in the 60s and 70s, you won't know when they fought those guys, where those guys were. You just see names and you kind of reel it off, don't you? You reel off the names. Ali fought, boom, 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 boom. And that's kind of what Usyk's doing right now. He's just kind of collecting names, which I get makes sense. Look, if you're a Shelley Finkel and you hear that, you must jump off your chair and think, okay, this is perfect. I'm desperate to get Wilder in a big fight because Wilder wants to fight. If you're Usyk and you've called him out, it almost makes me feel like this fight will happen then.
I think it will. He's got one trigger to pull. I tell you what it reminds me of, and I'm a huge fan and a friend of Joe Calzaghe. He's one of my favourite fighters of all time. But when he fought Roy Jones Jr., Roy didn't have so much left at that time at light heavyweight in 2009. The Bernard Hopkins was the difficult fight for Joe when he stepped up to light heavy. And like you say, Joe bookended the era with Hopkins and then Jones, and his resume is extraordinary now, walking away undefeated after those 40-something fights, just short of Larry Holmes' record, of course, that long undefeated record. So, and Floyd Mayweather now, of course. So
Yeah.
it's very, very clever matchmaking in some ways, and I can see Deontay Wilder taking it, and apparently they're talking. So I don't mind. I will go to it. I will watch it, and it will probably be the last hurrah for Wilder.
Yeah, no. Of course, because as you say, it will be that, and I like it, the last bullet in the chamber. And at any time, there'll be some that like, if he lands type thing. So you watch it until it's over, which could be in the very first round, knowing Alexander Usyk. Right, that's wild. This one is even more wilder. Sorry, the pun. Katie Taylor versus Ronda Rousey. I mean, look, we're both MMA fans, and there was a time, and people of a younger generation won't believe this, but there was a time when Ronda Rousey was bigger than Conor McGregor, when she was just enormous. But one thing Ronda Rousey has never been good at is standing on her feet and fighting. Her thing is a judo. That's her. She's a judoka. That's what she does. She takes you down. Her last two fights, or her last fight against Amanda Nunes, lasted all of a minute, where she got lit up on her feet. Look, I'm happy for Katie. Go and make your money. You've been in wars. But I just can't even picture Ronda Rousey with a pair of gloves on. It kind of blows my mind that this even could happen.
Me. I didn't get excited about it. As you say, she lost her last two to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. Were they saying it was Holly Holm against Katie Taylor? I'd have been buying into that. But I don't, and obviously she's boxing now as well. Can we substitute Holly Holm for Ronda Rousey? And Ronda Rousey has now been away for, well, it's 9 years already. So she hasn't fought in 9 years. It was 2016 that Amanda Nunes beat her up in 40 seconds.
No way.
2016, it was 9 years ago. So I'm not, unless it doesn't thrill me in the slightest. Like you say, she's not a stand-up fighter. She's a judoka originally. The arm bar, of course, is her thing. Can we substitute her for Holly Holm?
Yeah. And even that would sort of raise eyebrows. That's how bad this matchmaking is. I didn't know it was 9 years ago. For some reason, in my head, I thought the Amanda Nunes fight was about 5 years ago, which is crazy. Then that means she's not won a fight for over a decade. She's not won an MMA fight for a decade. And yeah, this is just, if people think Jake Paul versus AJ is wild, this is actually more wilder. This is crazy. Johnny Fisher back on the weekend, fights in Monaco. Good card, this one. Pat McCormack is on there, takes on Conor Walker. Shabazz Massoud takes on Peter McGrail. But I guess the big talking point is Johnny Fisher is back. And we just spoke about Fraser Clark, didn't we? Potentially, that could somehow work out. Johnny Fisher takes on Herbert Matuvi. No one's really known of this guy, but he's back. Tony Sims in his corner, new trainer. Very important that Johnny looks good.
He's got to get back in the win column after losing to Dave Allen twice in a row, in my view. But obviously, he got the decision in Riyadh. I think Johnny's rejuvenated. I think he's regathered. He looks like he's got his mustard back. Really needs to do well in this fight. And like you say, it just needs to get back in the win column. And weirdly, I mean, I think he's kind of way down on the card. Certainly the card that I've looked at, but it is all eyes are going to be on Johnny Fisher in their tuxedos on Saturday night. Are you there presenting with your tuxedo?
I am.
Black tie?
I am. I'm out to
Black
Monaco
tie?
on Friday. Black tie. We got it. Bow tie, I'm even giving it. I'm getting the full work. So, I mean, we might even have a nice little number. I don't know what jacket I'm wearing yet, but yeah, I've definitely got to go to the casinos, drop a couple of quid as well. A couple of interesting news stories I want to end with. Number one is Jaya Pataya, who, I mean, something needs to change here. I don't know what, but something needs to change because I almost feel like Jaya's become the forgotten man. But yet every time I see him on my screen, I think he's electric. I think his demeanor's mean. It's perfect. But when he fights in Australia against names that we don't really have any investment in, almost feel like he's been forgotten. And now there's talks of Zerda versus David Benavidez. I don't know what they have to do with Jai, but they need to do something, or it's just not going to become what I thought it was going to be. Because I think he's a superstar, and it just looks a bit flat at the moment.
Well, what we forget with him, he's so good that there's nothing wrong. We want him to be hurried. We want him to be hurried through the cruiserweight division and into the heavyweight division. And he's going to be a small, dangerous heavyweight, but he's a wrecking ball of a cruiserweight. I'm disappointed as well because I'd love to have seen the Golden Southpaw in against him, Zurdo Ramirez, who I can remember watching him live win the super middleweight world title. It's a fight we must see. He'll be diminished if David Benavidez beats him at cruiserweight. I get what they're trying to do is build a big event on Cinco de Mayo weekend because it looks like Canelo isn't going to take up that weekend this year, and I get it. 2 Mexicans in a great fight, jeopardy for David Benavidez. But, you know, you say that, but I think it's Hussein Sin Cara, isn't it? Undefeated in 23.
It is.
Out of Germany, but Turkish. He's 23-0 with 19 knockouts. He is the number 1 challenger for the IBF title. So it's ticking all the boxes, but it doesn't. You don't know, but you sense what's going to happen. Is Jai's going to go in there? Sin Cara likes to come forward and throw his hands. Jai will catch him. He's so dangerous. He's sharp. He's powerful. He creates those angles from the southpaw stance. Don't see an upset. See him winning by knockout. Again, in an exciting fight. And then he'll tread water again. So I know where you're coming from, but let's not rush him too much because the big fights really will come for him.
Hopefully so. Hopefully that they can sort something out with Jai, because I would like to see him with the big boys in the heavyweight division, because his speed and punching power could cause a lot of these bigger heavyweights, I think, some problems. All right, we'll end on this story, and it's about one of the great heavyweights, Mike Tyson, who has surprisingly, and I'm disappointed in Mike, he's come out in support of Dana White and reform of the Ali Act. He wrote a letter to Congress, and I'll summarize it very quickly. He's basically said, Muhammad Ali has always been my hero, both inside and outside the ring. Supporting these revisions honors the spirit of the original Ali Act. What's he talking about?
Look, he's coming out in support of Turki Al-Sheikh, who's a friend of his, and also of Dana White, who's put forward the revision in the Muhammad Ali Act for TKO. It's called the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. It's adjuncts to the Ali Act, which has been in place for a quarter of a century now, something like that. And many in boxing have criticised the new legislation, saying that Dana White wants to use the changes in the Ali Act, Ade, to implement a UFC-style model in the sport. They won't be allowed to do that, but Mike Tyson's long been a friend of Dana White's as well, and it's the heavies offering their heavyweight support. We've got to keep an eye on how this Revival Act works out. Obviously, it's in front of legislature at the moment in the United States House Committee on Education, not on Education, the United States House Committee at the moment, and we will see whether the MAABR Act comes to fruition. Watch this space. It doesn't look good on the outside because they want to be manager and promoter. So we shall see how it plays out.
Which kind of happens anyway, really, in American boxing. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's the path that Al Heyman's been walking for years. So it's kind of there already. So maybe it does need some sort of reform, but I don't think this type of reform is going to do anyone any good. All right, Gareth, as always, thank you very much. You have been listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Remember, if you've missed any of this show, you can listen to it as a podcast as well. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll be back with another bumper show next week.